Man, I haven't gone online for such a long time. So hey, what's up everyone? My name is Michael and welcome back to Boxmining. So it's almost been a week since my last video, and that was because I was in Thailand and the internet was so bad, so I didn't manage to make any videos during that time. But I thought since I'm back, I want to do a news recap. A lot has happened over this week, especially positive news, especially regarding the markets. The markets have been going up like this recently. So we're doing a little bit of analysis as to why this is happening. Also, we're going to look at some key news. For example, BAKKT potentially might be delayed, which is negative news, but ironically, the market responds the other way. We also have some positive news. It seems like Facebook is really taking a serious stab at cryptocurrency. There's this rumor that they're going to launch WhatsApp stablecoin. We also have some news looks. So I read a few articles and I'm going to corroborate that with stuff that we already know to see if these articles make sense in that respect or not. So this relates to Joseph Lubin coming out to say, you know what, he's really thinking that this is the bottom for the cryptocurrency market. And then of course, we also have this rumor of this layoff, huge layoffs coming at Consensys. So is he trying to cover up for something, or is he genuinely excited for the future of crypto? And then finally, we also want to look at some news regarding mining as well. So it turns out that Nvidia has been reporting these negative kind of reports that their company's not doing so well, the forecasts aren't so good, and they're blaming mining for it. But I actually think it goes a little bit deeper, and I think they're just going to use this as an excuse. So it seems like cryptocurrency has been the butt of all excuses recently as well. So we want to get the truth into this. And finally, we're going to have one bit of really important things. So the most important part of this video, if you don't take home from it, is this idea of proof of keys, taking your cryptocurrencies out of exchanges. And I'll tell you guys why that's super important. So all this and more on today's Box Mining. I hope you guys enjoy it. And if you guys do enjoy it, remember to smash up those like buttons and also have a good holiday as well. And as always, everything covered here is my personal opinion, not financial advice. All right, let's take a look at the markets. And it's to a point right now that I gotta press the refresh button every time I look at this market because it's been fluctuating crazy on this whole entire week. So notable key winners here, we've got Ethereum. So a top 3 coin right now, it's really shot up 15%. So something is happening right now. And a lot of people have been asking me about, why is this happening? What's happening with Ethereum? And to be honest, there isn't much drastic changes going on in the news front. So this is kind of very interesting. We got this bounce back. And what my theory has been is that right now, the funds that the sell pressure coming from different projects or funds, 2 things that's gone out. One has been that a lot of projects, they announced their layoffs already. They don't have to cover up for anything. So that sell pressure from the project is going away. We also have the funds. So this year has come to an end. So they needed to do accounting for this year. So if they wanted to liquidate, if these funds wanted to get out of crypto positions, they would have gotten out earlier on in December instead of right now, because they had to do the accounting and do everything. So that seems to be a case where the sell pressure is easing off a lot, and that insane fear in Ethereum is fading away. But I think one of the kind of ideas that's interesting here is that we have very strong comments on both sides. The idea that this is not a rally, chill, we're up 52% after, we're down 95%. So we're still down 80-90 from earlier this year. So this is referring to the all-time high. You can only identify a bull rally if ETH goes up to at least 400 or something. So there's this kind of debate right now of whether or not we're entering a bull market. I kind of do agree that we're bouncing back from this low. Ethereum dumped all the way to 2 digits instead of 3 digits right now. All right, so I found the article. So initially it was the case that, Arthur Hayes, the CEO of BitMEX, he called Ethereum a triple-digit shitcoin and it'll fall below 100. That came to fruition, surprisingly. So if you guys actually want to read the initial reasoning behind all of this, he was actually pretty spot on, especially with relation to all the funds. But after all, there's still much more to Ethereum than just an ICO platform. But if you really want to answer the question, have we seen the bottom? Is this the bottom? And is it going to go up from here? We got to take a critical analysis of the news. You know what? The co-founder of Ethereum, Joe Lubin, he's calling the crypto bottom of 2018. So this hit actually in Cointelegraph. It was one of the top articles. It was one of the hottest articles because it's supporting this kind of bull run. And in many senses, we have to be critical of this because Joe Lubin, he runs Consensys, the Consensys with a Y. Well, we got reports of this coming out that Consensys is going to lay off up to 60% of its staff. So this report is an update to the one that was reported a little bit earlier. So we were reading up earlier this year, they were saying, earlier this December, they're saying they're laying off 13%. But obviously 60% is much more alarming than 13. So then what number is it? Is it 60% or 13%? Well, it depends on how you calculate it, because this article is talking about Consensys as a foundation itself. But what they're doing on top of this is they're going to kind of spin off projects that they were incubating. So essentially, Consensys, this kind of group, they were incubating a lot of projects on Ethereum, directly providing funding. But what seems to be happening right now is that they're cutting some of the projects that aren't successful. So maybe some dApps that aren't very useful or haven't come to fruition. They're directly saying, "Go, you know what? You guys handle it off on your own. We're going to spin you off." That's the politically correct term for it. And also, they might even cut their funding completely. So not is it just being spun off, you guys look for your own funding, and we're not going to pay you anymore. So it depends on how you calculate it. So if you calculate that as a layoff, as the people in those companies that's being laid off, then that's how you get the 60%. But if you count those companies as being independent companies of Consensys, that's how you get 13%. For me personally, I'm glad that he did this. I'm glad that we have this talk about, projects not working, how to do better out in the open. That's what the bear market brings. That's where people really that are focused on building. That's where they manage to do something during this time when, well, the prices aren't that much of an issue, when you're not speculating or trying to pump your coin's price. That's when you actually try to focus on your product. So I feel it's good that there are failures. Those failures should be a learning lesson for everyone moving forward. And that's pretty much part of the startup game. We must acknowledge that there are some ideas that are way out there that don't work. There are some ideas that do work. Let's focus on the successful ones and move forward. Talking about moving forward as well, we got Facebook is developing a cryptocurrency for WhatsApp transfers, sources say. So what's been happening is that sources, this is not an official announcement or anything, but research has been done into Facebook. There's around 40 people right now in the blockchain group. So this is based on LinkedIn profiles, people working in Facebook and putting blockchain as one of their titles. A small team is exploring different applications. We don't have anything further to share. So they're being extremely hush-hush about this situation. So the rumor here is that WhatsApp needs a currency or needs a way to do payments because the competitor WeChat done by Tencent, which is used by a lot of Chinese people, that has an insane amount of services that are all tied to payment. So it seems to be the logical next step. And this is where all the rumors are coming from. People are thinking, okay, WhatsApp really needs an upgrade, and what can really fit here that's blockchain related? Well, payments, because solving payment issues in, for example, countries like India and in Southeast Asia where cross-border payments are really important. This bit of news is quite interesting as well, because it goes to show how kind of low quality a lot of the articles we're getting in this crypto space is. Because this is a blame game. Nvidia, the producer of graphics processor GPUs, they're performing poorly on S&P 500s, and they're blaming crypto mining as one of the reasons of why they're doing poorly. So this is kind of like a FUD piece against mining. Mining's not doing very well. It's not very profitable, which is in many cases true. But also Nvidia's performance right now this year, this quarter, I really don't think comes from mining. So if you look at the reviews for the new graphics card, the 2080, this reviewer had a really hard time giving it a positive review because obviously there's a lot of expectations here. But one of the key conclusions here is that the new chipset leans a lot on future technology, and the ability to test these titles and this future is very, very limited. So the conclusion is that in terms of value for money, these new chipsets aren't that good. So this just goes to show that crypto mining shouldn't be the blame here. The 1080 is all sold out and you can't really buy any of those. And the 280, the successor, just price value wise just doesn't match. So in many senses, I think right now, if you got to read the news, you got to be very critical and look to the real reasons. A lot of these CEOs are coming out with these kind of like bogus claims and blaming things that are convenient to blame. And crypto is one of them. It's convenient to blame crypto right now. All right, so the last topic of the day relates to exchanges, both future exchanges and current exchanges. And to a certain point when I was looking through this, I was like, wow, this really looks like a bit of FUD on this whole market, but it's got a point at the end. So do stick throughout this whole segment to see what the reasoning behind what I'm saying is and what my outlooks are. So first, let's get the good and bad news out of the way. So right now, BAKKT might be delayed. So the issue here is that the company set this January the 24th date to launch this new exchange called BAKKT that's going to bring institutional or allow much easier institutional access to cryptocurrency. And the reason the legitimacy established here is that BAKKT is done by the same company, Intercontinental Exchange, the same company who made the New York Stock Exchange. So lots of creds, street creds on Wall Street. So what seems to be the case is that they need to have a necessary approval from the CFTC, from regulators, and they still haven't received that yet. And because they haven't received that, and because there's a potential for the US government shutdown, then it might get postponed again. Second thing relates to exchanges that are currently out there. So we have current cryptocurrency exchanges under attack in South Korea for having fraudulent volume. Prosecutors are prosecuting the staff members behind Upbit. So this is a Korean exchange. And what they did is that during September and December of last month, they used a fake corporate account to make bogus orders up to 226 billion US dollars of trade volume. That's a hell of a lot of trade volume that they were just shoving in onto exchange, making it look as if their exchange is very active, and also making it seem as if Bitcoin itself is also has a huge trading volume, huge hype around it. So right now, this is what they're charged with. They haven't been found guilty, but it's good that people and regulators are looking at this. Right now, as it stands, exchanges are black boxes. They can claim whatever volume they want. They can create accounts that they want, and they can create accounts that have zero trading fees and just trade between themselves and make it as if it seems like the volume is extremely huge when it's actually not. So this is something that as a crypto community, we're subject to abuse for. We're being abused by all this fake data, and it might be the case that the actual trade volume is much less than what we have right now. So this applies to Upbit, but other exchanges, for example, Bitfum, also in Korea, has a similar issue. But what they did is they tried to draw these analogies between what's really happening on the other exchanges to volume movements on Bitfum. And what happens is that huge volume movements were happening on Bitfum that does not correspond to other exchanges, suggesting that something fishy is going on. So this whole report between these kind of spike transactions and these growing transaction amounts per person, well, this data is right now being corroborated in this paper that I'll link here. But it's very interesting that real research is being done into these black boxes to kind of bust them for having fake volume. And this is very important for us in the future because exchanges right now are totally getting away with murder, essentially, having fake volumes out there. And more importantly, they hold our funds. So this goes to the point that I'm trying to make. Proof of keys is coming up. So this is something set up by Trace Mayer. He's basically said, you know what, everyone on this day, that's 9 days, in 9 days, take out your Bitcoin, take out your other cryptocurrency from exchanges. This is essentially trying to make sure that these exchanges have the coins that we think they have. They have our funds. Our funds are safe. And we need to prove that for ourselves. We can't really rely on these exchanges saying, you know what, yeah, we have your funds. That's simply not good enough because as a victim of empty gox, as someone who has been through an exchange hack, and I'm still waiting for my funds to be returned, it's really important to make sure that we have what we think we have. And the only way to do so is when we take it out of exchanges. So I'm definitely in very big support of that movement. And because that it is already happening, that other people are taking out crypto out of exchanges, there might cause a panic. Because if these exchanges don't have the funds that they say they do and they can't pay us off, and I've seen that already. I've seen some exchanges lowering their withdrawal limits so then like people withdraw less over time. this is already happening. So make sure, guys, you stay safe at this current point. And that's it for today's episode, guys. Over the next few days, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to do a recap of the things that we learned this year. So the things that worked well, the things that didn't work very well, and kind of a recap of the learnings. And I think this is very important for us going forward, not just making grand predictions of future 100x's. I think that's really not what we need right now, but we need to learn from our mistakes and kind of value the entities and the projects that are doing good in this space. And I think that is the only way you can build a strong foundation for a growth in the future. So that's what I'm going to do in the next few days. So watch out, keep an eye out on this channel, do subscribe to this channel, and do click the notification bell because I will be doing some live streams as well. So I hope you guys can be there and we can ask some questions and discuss as a community.